Hello everyone, welcome back aboard the Crazy Train. It's the Crazy Canuck coming at you from Saskatchewan, Canada. Today, I'm in the greenhouse looking at a little system I set up here. Last night it froze again. It was -1 Celsius. We've had -7, -8, you know, typical Grand Solar minimum weather. So what I've done is I've had bedding plants out here, and of course I've been taking them in and out because I just want to see if this is going to work. I put pails of water to basically catch the geothermal energy, or not really geothermal but more like solar, and so far, even when it was 5 degrees Celsius below zero, the water in here didn't freeze. So in theory this would work. You just cover everything up and the heat would stay in. Now to add to that, I also have some aquarium heaters, and of course this one's a pretty big one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these, there's two of them. I'm going to set up 2 pails with aquarium heaters, and then that way I can leave the bedding plants out here and just cover them up with a blanket at night, and it should keep it warm enough so it doesn't freeze. And that's all I really care about, is just to not have everything freeze. Now if you remember the transplanting I did of the chives, they're doing really well. They're growing like crazy. They're tough. I left them out here. They can take some frost. They're basically a perennial, so they're doing pretty good. So this is something that if you're looking for cold weather crops, you got your garlic, your onions, your chives, all that could be planted in the fall. It could sit under the snow all winter, come up in the spring. You don't really have to plant it in the spring. So that's this part of it. Now I've came up with an idea when I'm carrying all these trays in and out, because they are a real pain in the neck. And these trays that I carry with, I have some that I've been reusing, but they're I have to buy some. They're $2 a piece, and I'm just cheap, so I really don't want to spend a whole lot of money on trays. So I came up with something, and I'll show you that right away. Before I show you the system I came up with, I just wanted to show you this. This is what I use for a fish pond in the summertime. I'm not sure if I'll use it this year or not. I might just rebuild it. Over the years it has deteriorated, so I've had to do some patching. But definitely last night the water, it was cold enough to freeze the water in here. And yet those pails kept enough energy in the greenhouse to keep from freezing. And a lot of times that's all you need, is a couple degrees of frost protection. So on to my next project. Okay, so this is the type of tray that I use for the plants, for the starters. As I said, these web trays are like $2 a piece. A solid one's $4. These inserts aren't cheap, but I have an idea for those too. So instead of carrying one at a time out of the greenhouse and back into the greenhouse, you know, every night and every morning, to lessen the workload, I came up with an idea to build some very cheap trays out of pallet material, of course. I got these 1x4s on long pallets. They're really great for building projects. So the flood tray in the greenhouse is 3 foot on the inside. These trays are 11 inches, so I can build 33-inch trays that'll fit inside the flood tray in the greenhouse. So I'll just put this off to the side. I'm going to do 2 at a time here. We're going to 33 inches. You don't have to be overly accurate with this project, because we're not building pianos here. We're just building some cheap and dirty trays. for the cross supports, these trays are 21 inches. So I need to cut another 4 pieces at 21 inches. So I'll get all this cutting done, and I'll meet you over at the table saw for the reveal of my idea. Alright, we got all our material cut. Got the long pieces, got the short pieces. The idea I came up with to make this the easiest project in the world is nails free. No nailing, nothing. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take some silicone and I'm going to glue everything together. And then let it set up and it'll be good to go. Another one, I'm going to actually use a couple screws to hold everything together. So you'll have 2 bonds. You're going to have a silicone bond and you're going to have a mechanical bond. So to set all this up, I've got short pieces here. I'm going to use 3 of those. We're going to use 3 of the long pieces. And this doesn't have to be pretty, it's just for carrying plants, and you know, it's not about how good something looks when it's a matter of survival. It's all about surviving. I call it function over fashion. So I'll use the table saw here as a guide. Keep things relatively square. And apparently this has been mislabeled because it says clear. And it's white. Yay! Always like accuracy in advertising. So I'm not even going to measure, you know, just put it about halfway. A little bit of silicone on here. Doesn't have to be pretty. Just stick that on there. We'll do this one at the other end. Now because this is white, it's not going to be as good as a clear silicone you can use as an adhesive, as well as a sealant. But we'll see how this works. I'm not happy with the misprint. So the next one, we are actually going to glue and screw. So again, we'll set up our 3 stringers here. We put our silicone. We get our 1x4 cross pieces. Throw those into place. And to keep the wood from splitting, I always like to pre-drill the holes. And I'm only going to put 1 screw into each of these. Because all you're doing is just giving it a little extra bonding. Just like that. Just screw them together. So I'm going to drill and screw the rest of these, and I'll come back and we'll see how these are going to work. So there you go. 3 trays on it. A lot easier to carry than just one back and forth if you have to. So I'm going to get all these transplants back into the greenhouse, and then I'll discuss another couple ideas that I've got. See you in a minute. Alright, we're back in the greenhouse. Everything is put in place. That was nice, making 3 trips instead of 9. Now, here's a question. Since these are on the little wood trays, if you had a flood system like this, and I noticed a couple holes, this is from last year, so I noticed a couple holes in it, so I'm not going to be flooding this. I'm hopefully going to, I'm either going to have to swap out the poly or get busy in my other greenhouse and get it finished. But let's say you wanted to use the flood tray and build floating rafts that your plants could sit on. That would add a lot of extra thermal mass, and once you get that water warm, it would help maintain temperature overnight. So just a thought. And so far I'm really liking these wood trays. I'm going to build a lot more. So one more little idea for this video, so stay tuned. I'll be back in a minute. First, a little word about peat moss. If you remember from the last video, the peat moss that I was using was really tough to use. It wouldn't take up moisture. It was hard as a rock. Really tough to deal with. This is a peat moss from Premier. I can't remember. I'd have to look back in the video what the other one is from. But Premier has a peat moss that is really nice and easy to use. Just breaks up. It's almost like it already has some moisture in it. So now, when you're seeding for transplants or seeding early because your seasons are getting too short, there's a lot of things around here that we use. Like I used to start back in the early 90s. I used to start corn, put it in the ground May 1st. Well, this is second week in May already, and we're still sitting at minus temperatures at night. So if you want to start them early and then transplant them, but those trays are expensive, and if you don't have used ones to use like I have, or something like that, I came up with this idea. You take your peat moss, you throw it in an egg carton. There you go, you're done. Put your seeds in here, water it, away you go. When it comes time to transplant, all you have to do is just break all these little cells apart. As long as the cell stays wet, the roots will have no problem going through. And I think this would work even better than that eggshell idea that I saw online, planting in an eggshell and then putting the eggshell and everything into the ground. I think this would work a lot better. You could even poke a small drainage hole into the bottom, and over time, when it's in the garden, it gets some rains on it, or it's in the greenhouse and you're watering it, this paper will break down very quickly and the roots will have no trouble penetrating. So it's an idea I came up with looking at some of these egg cartons that we have, and that's as simple as that. And I like to use straight peat moss to start a lot of seed. I have some very rare, hard to find seed, and I don't want anything from last year to come in and start growing where I don't want it to be growing in those cases. So there you have it. Bit of an update, a bit of a little creation time. So hope that was a benefit to some of you at least. And as usual, like if you like, subscribe if you haven't. Spread the word. Let's grow some food. Talk to you soon.